afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to be here, nice to see everybody, some new faces in the industry as well. My name is Cornelis Human. I'm the technical sales consultant for FloraLife, and we are a company specifically focused on post-harvest quality management of cut flowers. So that we are basically the providers of post-harvest solutions, and we specifically look at that. We don't do anything what we call pre-harvest, that kind of thing. So we specialize entirely in that, okay? Our mother company is called Smithers-Oasis, and they are based in the US, and it was started by Mr. Smithers, who was a chemist who discovered what we know today as floral foam, but it was actually developed to pick up oil spills in factories in the 50s in the US and places like that. Sorry. So one day someone took the foam and stuck a flower into it, and at the time they were using different things to make flower arrangements. Flower arranging was very big, and that's how floral foam was begun, the Oasis we know. So Oasis purchased FloraLife was, here you'll see some giant packages that you would add to your vase to produce, to improve vase life. But it was started in 1938, and it's been running all along. In 2007, Smithers-Oasis purchased FloraLife. So then they would do the floral products, the foams, and a whole bunch, huge range of floral accessories, and of course have the post-harvest leg. So we are based globally. We have R&D facilities in places like Holland, the US, the Red Dots, China, Japan, and the rest of the facilities are either factories or distribution facilities. I know this is more retail oriented, which might not be specific to you guys, but the reason we look at this is at the end of the day, flowers are bought by people, you know, in the retail environment. And in that environment, you have a certain expectation as a modern day consumer. Whether you're buying from a florist, whether you're buying from a wholesaler, whether you're buying from an auction, or a retailer, the global standard of your expectation at home of your vase on your counter is we aim for 5 days. At that point, people come back to that business to buy flowers again. If you're buying flowers one day, they last great. The next day, they don't from the same place. You create an irregularity in terms of you're lucky one day, you're not lucky the other day. So are you going to come back the third time to buy flowers? Is that little voice in you going to say, oof, no, I'm going to hold off this time? And that's what causes a lot of damage to the consumer, is they can't trust the product. So in order to trust the product, you need to deliver consistency, not just as a grower to your clients, but your client to their client. So this training we do, or this information we share, is really relevant to everybody in the chain, because at the end of the day, our income is earned from the consumer. Pretty simple. And the reality is, what I find in the industry with growers is slowly, without knowing it, people buy less and less from you. It may or may not have happened, but people will never come to you and say, hey, we've had this problem, because they don't know it, but their buyers are not buying X product that you're delivering to them. So the whole system is quite quiet. It's quite tricky for you as a grower to understand. Then people pivot. Florists, for example, they'll pivot to doing events because people aren't buying flowers from them anymore, because they charge so much for the same kind of flower you can buy in store, because they are charging you for their waste, right? So now you're paying 600 Rand for a 200 Rand bunch, for example, and you're paying for the creativity, but they last 2 to 3 days. And unfortunately, the research that's done based on consumer science is very much a case of people, at least 50% of buyers require 5 days vase life in order for them to make the return purchase. All right, so that's That's a bit of a hard message to start, but that is the modern day industry requirement. And we're seeing the South African market definitely growing. There's no doubt that your Instagrams and all these different things, your influencers, retailers, their sales are growing. So the idea is whether you're supplying a farmer's market or whether you're supplying a retailer or anywhere in between, you want to ensure at least consistency in your product from where you can base, growing new flowers, new trends, etc. So that's really where we're coming from. And in order to achieve that, we need to share some information with the industry. So anyway, these are some companies we supply globally and in South Africa. And as I said, this is a study that was done by with 3,000 people, I think. And the consumers were most concerned with how long the flowers lasted. Not necessarily the color or the price. They're also not necessarily willing to pay more if the flowers last longer, but they come back to that place to purchase. I'd like to just give you a quick. So who's offended by that message? Is anyone upset or offended by it? Does it make sense? Unfortunately, that's the case. And I wouldn't be mentioning this if we weren't seeing such growth in South Africa. And people are not necessarily buying more flowers, but they're willing to pay more for less flowers. So that's another trend we're seeing, and it's also a global trend. We're seeing, retailers or florists are putting high-value products on the shelves, on their stand, something that costs 2,000-3,000 rand, and people are coming and buying those individual ready-made bouquets, that kind of thing. So more and more people are willing to pay more, and some people are not buying anymore. So these kind of trends all affect the the outcome of what we grow at the end of the day and what the trends are. So I just wanted to share this video with you. Let me just quickly turn up the volume. Okay, let's hope it works.
Smithers-Oasis, a leading global manufacturer of floral foam and accessories, cellular growing media, post-harvest products, and more, serves customers across multiple industries thanks to its business divisions, including FloraLife. For over 80 years, FloraLife has been solving the post-harvest care and handling needs of the cut flower industry. We support the entire cut flower distribution chain, from harvest to vase, from growers to wholesalers, and from supermarkets and retail shops to the consumer. Our products provide solutions for pre-treatment, hydration, transport and storage, and final food solutions for nourishment and conditioning, helping floral wholesalers and retailers minimize waste and deliver long-lasting flowers to consumers. Acquired by Smithers-Oasis Company in 2007, FloraLife continues to develop solutions to improve and maximize flower life. From our dedicated staff of PhD scientists and research specialists to our research locations, which are strategically located in major flower markets around the world, FloraLife works closely with the industry on the challenges of the distribution chain to optimize the quality of fresh-cut flowers and maximize their life through all parts of the distribution chain to ensure customer satisfaction. Thanks to the solutions offered by FloraLife post-harvest products, it remains one of the most recognized and trusted brands in the floriculture industry.
So, what do we want to achieve at home? A lot of people buy flowers. South Africans have a tendency to buy flowers that are very closed because they believe that a closed flower is going to last longer. The unfortunate thing of that, and also, I often refer to roses because cut stage and things like that with what we call summer flowers, which are the other crops, are not necessarily so important for the buyer. But just to show you, to explain how people think in reality. You don't buy a rose that's halfway or more open in store, but in reality, that rose, if it was picked a little bit later off the plant, it's actually more mature. So you will, in fact, get a longer vase life out of it. So you'll see in places like Europe where the flower culture is strong and old, they don't mind buying more open flowers because they actually realize that it's more, it can last longer. So from there, this is flower, how the commercial roses grow on the plant if you had to leave them. And that's really something nice that you could see at home if you can achieve that and get flowers, all types to open, all right? So just briefly, when it comes to care and handling, why do we do it? Why do we explain this? Some of you might know this already. Some of you might find it interesting. They're perishable goods. If, for example, a retail flower is picked today, we can do the math later, but it takes 14 to 16 days for that flower that it needs to live and survive for the retailer to achieve a guarantee of 5 days. And for a lot of people, you pick the flower, it leaves your premises, you might not actually see where it goes, but that florist could be using your flower 11, 12 days after she bought it. So your end user, again, the decision maker, gets an 11, 12-day-old product. And the question is it going to last? And again, is it going to help the return decision? That's pretty much where we're coming from, all right? So a huge factor in your post-harvest quality of your flowers is how your staff, how flowers are handled, okay? So that's the most important part, is that there are a number of factors that affect the shelf life of the flowers, right? And again, this is just a summary why we look at them: to improve the know-how and improvement of flower quality, reducing waste at resellers, reduction of complaints, and increase flower sales. So quality into the market gives a good response. That's pretty much overall where it comes from. All right. So you might know the word flower food. You've probably seen the flower food sachets. We do those as well, but there are grower-specific products that help flowers hydrate better and basically last longer and are more suited for the chain to come. What we don't realize is the amount of stress a cut flower endures by the time from you till the time it gets sold is incredibly high. So you could pick a flower on your farm, put it on your vase in your office or at home, and send the same flower through the chain, and you will get a completely different result, whether you're supplying the auction or however it goes. So these products are just there to help the flower, almost call it boost its immune system, to just help you give that extra leg. So there's a set of products that you can use on the farm. Whoever you're selling to has a product they can use, and the end product is essentially the sachet that the customer uses in their vase. So the main function of this product is to facilitate optimal hydration. So basically, if you place the flower in this mix, just this mixture is designed to help your flower uptake as much water as possible, way more water than if you had to put it in fresh water, which is quite counterintuitive because a fresh flower is healthy. You put it in water, it carries on drinking, right? Yes, it does. But it needs energy to drink. It needs energy to pull up water. So the flower food, or call it the post-harvest solution, lowers the pH of the water to a very specific point where the water comes up the flower way more easily. And that extra hydration just gives it a great boost. It's like hydrating in the morning and going to work or not. The effect is there, but you might not feel it straight away. So then it's an energy source. Some of the later products have sugars in them, a range of basic sugars, your fructoses, sucrose, etc., and they replenish the energy that the flower has used since it's been cut from its roots and not receiving any more nutrients and food. Those are the two main things. There is a product. There's an addition in the product that keeps your water clean, which decreases your bacterial growth. It's a biocide, so you don't get clogging of the stems. There's stabilizers in it, so the product, unlike, call it chlorine or jick or something that people add to the water, they do keep the water clean, they do suppress the bacterial levels, but they break down over time, especially being exposed to light. And after that, you get this bacterial spike, which goes into the flower stem and clogs it. So there's that, and there's a soap in it. Actually, if you make the mix and you shake it a bit, you'll see a soap. So that's what happens. Let's say you've picked your flowers, they're lying dry on the table. Can I borrow this one? Thanks. Right now, this flower is continuing to draw water, but it's only drawing air. So if you now place this flower back in the water, it's got an airlock, basically. So that's why we recut our stems, essentially. That's one of the reasons. The second one is if there's a lot of bacteria and it's all brown and it's clogged. So then if it's clogged, it also can't drink. It dehydrates and you get your classic drooping or wilting or anything like that. So the soap in the mixture breaks down that airlock into little micro bubbles. They then draw up the stem and out, so it unclogs your stem in that way. So the key with these products is mixing it according to the instructions, not too weak, not too strong. So you're wasting your money if you're going to be changing the mixtures, etc., etc. You need to use the right dosage in order for all these. I think the product you'd use on the farm has 11 different ingredients in it to achieve these tasks. So that's just in a nutshell what it does. This might be hard to see, but the pH of fresh water is around, I think this one says 7 something. And once you've added the product, it goes down to about 3.8. And we need it between 3.5 and 4.5 to facilitate that optimal hydration. I might need to borrow that again if you don't mind. So what we do also is, this is at a wholesaler, we set up trials at customers to sort of see for yourself. The flowers on the left, all 4 of these bunches were identical to start with. They were received, they were rehydrated in the step 2 solution, and then they were placed in the sachet. These ones were kept in water. These are identical bunches. So straight away, I'm sure you can see the differences. Same number of stems. Even the lilies lasted quite well. Even though they open, they sit. So it is, interestingly enough, I think it has a lot to do with reducing stress on the flower and replacing basically what it needs. This is already what I've said in terms of what it means for the industry. And this specifically points out that everyone in the industry has a role to play. So today I am gonna focus a little bit more on the role the grower can play on the farm to cover certain bases. All right, I've explained a flower or a plant, as we know, it needs water to keep the functions of the cell vital. It needs water for various reactions in the flower, photosynthesis, growth, maturation, etc. It needs food in the form of carbohydrates, which are generally sent up from the roots, and again to keep the metabolism working, and then minerals to keep the cells working well. So it's a living thing, basically. The leaves of the flower act as solar panels. I'm sure most people know that. They gather light energy and it powers the whole system. And in terms of powering the system, this is the kind of response you would be getting from the cells. In terms of turgidity, how much water is in the cell determines how the flower looks. So if you've got little water, the flower will wilt. The reason why a flower wilts around its neck is because this is the freshest or the most recently grown, what do you call it, material. So this part is hard already. It's been hardened off by nature, but this part stays soft. So this is the part you want to keep hydrated in order for it not to droop, all right? Now we've cut the stem. I've cut it off the water, off the roots. and ideally we want to replace that, okay? We want to replace what it's missing. So we look at 3 factors once you've harvested: temperature, time, and treatment. It sort of speaks for itself. You know, temperature, the hotter, the worse. Time, the longer, the worse. And treatment is physically how you treat this flower in order for it to last as long as possible. Temperature is a big one. And the reality is, as we're all sitting here, we're respiring, we're breathing, we're giving off heat energy, we're giving off storm, humidity, etc., etc. So temperature is important because heat production results in a higher rate of respiration. If we all go into that small room over there and close the door with no aircon, it's slowly going to get warmer and warmer because our bodies are giving off heat. But as we get warmer, right, this is now your flowers in a box. As we get warmer, we get hotter and hotter and give off more and more heat. So that heat being given off is exponential in your box. That's why putting already chilled flowers in a box is so important. Okay, and this is just the difference between temperatures. Here we're talking 0 degrees, 12 degrees, 18 degrees. Look how huge that spike is. So you open a box that you've received, or you've sent a box, your customer opens it, you get that waft of warm air. That, unfortunately, is flowers that are under a lot of stress because they respiring so quickly. And the more they respire, the more they age. The more they age, the more water they need and the more replenishment they need, basically. That's how the cycle progresses, okay? Out of interest, high humidity is good for flowers. Cold temperature in combination with high humidity is actually very good for flowers. So Durban, places like that, they're quite lucky because the flower is cold. You've slowed it down. Just like vegetables you've bought in the shop, you put them in the fridge when you get home. You don't leave them outside. It slows them down, and high humidity means the dry air is not trying to pull water out the flower and dehydrate it more. So your cold rooms, for example, can be built in a way that maintains a high humidity. It's a different process, etc. I'm not too sure exactly what it entails, but you do get special cold rooms that keep humidity high, which are not a bad thing. Just in case you're worried about humidity in your pack houses or in your cold rooms or wherever. Okay. Ideal storing environment. People ask me that a lot. The ideal environment for a cut flower is 1 to 3 degrees Celsius. That's ideal, but it's very difficult to achieve. So typically I see most of the cold rooms sort of go down 4 to 6 degrees. It's adequate in South Africa. But any kind of temperature management is better than no temperature management. So even if you're very small, you've got an air conditioner in a small room, it's still better than nothing. Exposing it to ambient temperatures will make it, the flower's going to do this again, which gives you a 50-50 result at the end of the chain, right? So time, that's the third one. So we had temperature first, now it's time. Very simple. The longer the flower is out of water, the worse it is for the flower, okay? And it comes down to developing standardized procedures. So a SOP, standard operating procedure, it doesn't have to be complicated, it doesn't have to be difficult. It's a case of making sure that whether you are there or not, the flowers are traveling the same way every single day, in a certain way, a certain timeline, because then you create that consistency going out. And it's not difficult to set up a 3 or 5 step process for your managers or for yourself just to follow. It doesn't help if you're in a rush and you quickly pick Friday afternoon and then you pick again Monday morning and then Wednesday midday when the temperature's all over the show. And obviously your market determines that quite a lot. But all I'm saying is that a standard procedure helps a lot. And what I have seen is there's a very common, very normal to understand thinking that pick the flower and get it out. That's a huge culture with us. I've found that if you actually pick a flower, use a hydration solution, put it in the fridge overnight, tell your customers, hang on, maybe another night, you actually get a lot better performance out of a lot of flowers. I would suggest you try that, but it's not specific to every flower, I'm sure, but don't be rushed by market demands. Rather deliver the best quality and eventually get to the point where they come and pay cash at your doorstep. So that's the treatment of the flowers is the important part, because that's not necessarily in your hands. That's in your staff's hands, your trucks, these kinds of things. If you drop this flower just from this height, all right, while it's cut, while it's still alive, the shock signals that this flower is now sending in itself shoots up, all right? So now I'm in shock. I need to survive. I'm a flower. What's my job in nature? Is to grow open, be pollinated, make seed for reproduction. And we are all trying to slow that down. So dropping a flower and sending stress signals through it, cutting the stem, sending stress signals through it, really affects the flower, and it speeds up its stress. Metabolism, respiration, all those kinds of things speed up. Therefore, the flower will open and it will want to continue with its job before it dies. It knows what's happening. So it's a bit of a dreary process, but we are essentially trying to stop that or prevent that. So treatment, okay, the storage of it, the processing of it, only remove stems that will be touching the water, okay? Don't let any leaves touch the water. I'm going to explain why just now. Staff who are, especially guys who are offloading, who are throwing the boxes off the truck, and you've taken all that effort to pack all these flowers so nicely. On the other end, the truck's doors open, all the cold air is going out. Maybe the flowers are being in a warm environment, etc., etc. So you want to keep your treatment of the flowers consistent. You don't want to throw the boxes. They don't want sudden shocks. And you want to keep your handling to a minimum. If the flower can never be touched by a person or a belt, that's ideal. So you look at where your handling steps could be removed if you may have an issue. And remember, as I said, you don't know whether the end user of an ingredient you might be farming is having an issue. You don't. You'll never know. But your customer might start buying less and less over time. And that's really what you should be listening to. But that takes time. Now you've got a crop of lizzies in the ground, but people are going to say next season, oof, we've burnt our fingers. So you're paying attention to those kinds of things is very beneficial, Then the time you have them in transport, sending in warm versus cold transport, I mentioned that, hydration levels, and how close the flowers are to fruit and veg, if someone's smoking at the back of the truck while they're offloading or smoking near the flowers, and an idling truck, for example, can also affect the flowers. I'll explain that in a bit. All right. So here I've mentioned only leaves under the water need to be removed, and above the water level, only remove damaged leaves. So if a leaf has a kink in it, the stress that the flower is now experiencing is the same as you and I breaking a bone. Okay, your body then sends energy to fix that problem. So now you are, when there's a damaged flower, it's sending a signal, help me, and your flower is now trying to fix that. So it's taking energy away from its own survival in order to fix a problem. So it is beneficial just to remove any damaged or sick leaves or anything like that. This explains what I explained before about the air, why we need to recut our stems, why we're cutting them a bit off, okay? Because you're removing the, what you want to call it, the airlock that may have been formed in the stem already. This is a quick video of the efficacy of one of our products. So this is a product where you don't need to cut your stems. or you can if you want. So this product works through the fact that there might be a blockage already, which, as you can imagine, your customer not needing to recut stems, or yourself, if you're processing stems and have a last cutting step, you don't need to do that. So let me just play this video. So we're going to have a few vases, each with, one will have water, one will be cut, and one will not be cut. There's the day. You can have a look. Notice the drooping and the wilting in the water. And see how these flowers are remaining turgid and they're opening. We're on day 4. There we are on day 5. There we start seeing a bit of drooping. So that's the effect, basically, of the product. I'm going to start again. There's one thing I forgot to point out. So also pay attention to the leaves, the foliage. A lot of people shop on the foliage. If the leaves look fresh, the flowers are fresh, right? A lot of people think that. So if you, these stems were not cut, the middle one, this was cut. This is in one of our older products we don't really do anymore. So the focus really is there. And look at the leaves, look at the differences. So basically what I need to explain is these products are not the answer to all the problems. I wouldn't start using the product and say, well, now I can skip other things. It's part of these steps I'm mentioning: time, treatment, etc., etc. It's not your savior, but if you've got your all your steps in process, it goes a very long way. And there's another concept that people sometimes misunderstand is if you take poor quality flowers and use the post-harvest, it's somehow miraculously going to make it better. It's not going to do that. It's just going to maintain whatever you put in. So you need to continue with your grading processes, etc., etc. It can't perform miracles for you other than maintaining the life and possibly the look of the flower. Right, so hygiene, this is something very specific to growers, is hygiene is very important. You walk into a dirty kitchen versus a clean kitchen, which one are you going to want to eat out of? All right, it's the same concept. Buckets being washed regularly are super vital. And I don't mean wash with sunlight soap, I mean wash and disinfect with a jig or any kind of wash disinfectant, or more flower specific products are important regularly. I'd say once a week at minimum. That, if you run your finger around a bucket and that brown gunk you get, that's bacteria. It's not dirt or dust or anything, it's bacteria. You add water to it, it activates the bacteria, and now you add food to it. They climb in here and they eat the soft material and they multiply and they clog the stem. So you simply just you are not giving the flowers a good chance to hydrate. Sunflowers are exceptionally sensitive to bacteria post-harvest. And most things are, you know, look, we talking, you might not see the difference, but your customer might not even be recutting the stems. So they're now putting their stuff in water with the bacteria in it. It just spikes. Another reason why you don't let leaves touch the water is if you consider the surface area of this stem, how much bacteria can sit on here, how much ever that is. Now you introduce a leaf to that water, look how much surface area, in addition, covered with bacteria, you are introducing to the water. So you are again spiking the bacterial level. So keep that to a minimum. And of course, your working surfaces and your tools. What I find really, really effective is a little spray bottle with a wash disinfectant on it. And your production area, literally lunchtime, spray it a few times, wipe, give it a wipe, let the stuff dry on the table for at least 5 minutes, just to suppress the bacteria that's built up there all day long while you've been processing. Again, it's a small thing, but it's not hard to do, and it makes a difference down the line. Okay. This over here is, I don't know if you can see that, the capillaries in the stem. The stem is not made, it's not a hollow tube like a hose pipe. It's more like a bunch of straws. That's why it stays strong. If I had a hose pipe like this, I could bend it easily. But if I had a handful of cool drink straws, I wouldn't be able to bend it easily. That's how stems are essentially made. But straws don't just run all the way to the top. They've got little sieves in them. And I forget the name of the sieves, but that's not important. The sieve looks like this, though. It's a little plate. Obviously, it's super microscopic. And those little mouths are openings which allow the water through. Now, a piece of dust might land on this thing, and it realizes, oh, this is a problem. I can't let this thing through because it's going to damage the flower later on. So it closes itself, literally. It's a little mouth. They mark 2. Then, now you've got bacterial cells coming up and living on these platelets where they're being caught. There is the same image. You can see one of these holes here somewhere, but it's been grown shut. All right, so bacteria and dirt in your buckets clog those little sieves on your capillaries, and then of course you get your drooping. Again, hygiene. What you see is the vase water becomes dirty and smelly. Dirty and smelly water is bacteria living and eating off the product. The water smells rotten and the stems become smetterig. Doesn't happen so much in roses. It happens sunflowers, gerberas, a bunch of things. If you've got that ooze on your stem, that's bacteria. If you're using the flower food and you still get that ooze, 9 times out of 10, it's because the flower food hasn't been mixed correctly, or it's because it's too old. You've used, for some reason, it's been used too much. So yeah, you'll see a little bacterial tester. It's very hard to see, but the point is these red dots indicate bacterial colonies, and you don't want more than this. And this is a clean one where the FloraLife had been used in the bucket. So there you can see the effect of the product on your bacterial levels. But it doesn't mean, again, that you can just use dirty buckets because the flower food's going to take care of all the bacteria. It's not. It's only going to take care of a certain amount, okay? That's just here's your cutoff. If I test the water in your bucket or in the retail bucket or your farm table or whatever, and this thing makes more dots than that, then once they get here, then your flower's life really becomes affected. It really becomes a problem for the flower's survival. All right. This is just an indication of how we do the floral tests. This is a guy washing buckets. It's very easy to lose track of washing buckets, but putting a standard procedure in place and fresh chemical in place. You can't just wash the bucket with a bucket that had some soap and jik added into it last week. The bacteria builds up in the buckets as you wash it. So you want to change your cleaning solution regularly, but you can use less at a time, you know. So pour a little bit of cleaning solution in one of your buckets, transfer it, give them all a wipe and go, rather than having one giant container where the bacteria just builds up. And then in a lot of cases, you actually reinfect buckets quite easily. So it is important knowing whether the flower you are growing is what level of sensitivity it has to bacteria. They all are sensitive, but as I said, sunflower and a few things like that are super sensitive. Again, there's a table. As flowers are placed on the table all day long, or people are using their hands or tools, it leaves behind a bit of bacteria all the time. So it spikes. So that's why I said use a little spray bottle with a product in it to clean your areas, to just break down those spikes, to just keep them lower. It doesn't help that buckets that you are delivering into are dirty as well. So it helps if people clean buckets all along the way. Anyway, this is just dirty bucket water. These are the things I've already explained. Botrytis. We all know it's a major issue. The only thing I can say about botrytis is hygiene is super important, because hygiene, again, clean kitchen versus dirty kitchen. You can't see the pathogen, but it is there. I don't know if any of you grow roses, but roses are, especially garden roses, things that are outside, are very susceptible. The only message here is that if you would take spore traps, right, and place them from greenhouse to the customer's house, so pack house, lorry, auction, all along the chain, 98% of the source of the botrytis is the greenhouse. Unfortunately, the chain has very little to do with it. So if you don't take care of your botrytis on the farm, the botrytis that travels with the flower will develop later on. But again, that's a huge thing with roses. And again, that concept of taking flowers from your farm, putting it in a vase, watching it, and then you get a complaint from the customer, hey, I've got botrytis, and you say, well, my flowers don't have botrytis and it's the same batch. Remember, these flowers have traveled through hot and cold, condensation, warm areas, etc., etc. It helps the botrytis start growing, but it was there from the beginning, basically. Now, I don't know anyone has botrytis issues, but that's the concept behind it. Also, if you're buying roses in, and you're supplying a store, which a lot of people do in addition, and they start rotting, then at least you know what the main reason is behind it. But it will be denied fully, all the time. Okay. This is just a little dosing unit. It works with tap water flowing through it. There's no electricity needed. It's got a little piston inside here, and then it's got the tube going down, hanging in your bucket of concentrate. Every liter water that moves through here then gets dosed with, for example, 2 mils of solution, and that which then comes out the tap is ready mixed. So you can add it to your buckets, your vases, soak your floral foam in it if you're doing arrangements, etc. This is just a quick picture to show you, as I said before, mixing the product correctly. It's like an antibiotic from the doctor. If he says take 5 in the week, you take 5. You don't stop halfway. It's the same concept. Here you have 0%, so fresh water. It's all wilted. Here you have 400%, 4 times too much. All the leaves are dead. So this is 100%. And if you were to compare these closely, you'll see little defects all along, where this one is the best. So it does, you can't take the risk, really, of not dosing correctly. Lastly, ethylene. Now, a lot of I call them modern day crops. People are growing real speciality flowers, and a lot of them are sensitive to ethylene. I don't know, show of hands, who knows what ethylene is? Okay, and who is using an anti-ethylene product? Okay, cool. So ethylene is what we call a ripening hormone. So in a nutshell, you've got a fruit hanging on a tree, say a mango. It's green, it's growing, gets orange, changes color, falls out the tree, right? Once it's ripe. When that smell starts developing of the mango, because it's changed color, etc., and it's ripening, it's releasing a gas called ethylene gas. It's an alcohol-based gas, but everything in nature releases this to tell the plant, hey, I'm ready to spread our seed, basically, seed, their seed. Okay, so that little mango then drops on the ground, rolls away, and the seed germinates and makes a new mango tree all the way down the line. So we need to stop ethylene from affecting the flowers, because ethylene is coming along. It typically binds on the neck of the flower here, little micro receptors. And once it attaches, it's like a lock and key. Once it attaches, it triggers the ripening process. And ripening in the case of flowers is opening, developing, and dying. So there's 2 sources of ethylene. So if you want to take, let's take Gypsophila for example. It is extremely ethylene sensitive. Okay, and I'm going to explain to you now how it looks. but it's sensitive because it makes its own internal ethylene a lot more than a sunflower. And it gets really affected by ethylene from the outside. So it's a double whammy, okay? So for that, there's a very well-known, very long time used chemical called STS, silver thiosulfate. And it comes in various companies, sell it in various versions, but that will stop internal ethylene production. So at least the flower is protected from the inside and then can withstand the traveling section. Again, just like heat, if you put a whole bunch of gyp in a box, they are giving off ethylene. And the more ethylene they give off, the more they're triggering each other to ripen, the more ethylene they give off. So that's part of that closing the thing in the box and it's getting warm. It's releasing more ethylene. So your very sensitive variety, crops are Gypsophila, Carnation, and then it goes down the line. But a lot of smaller crops are very sensitive, and you don't see the problem if you're supplying someone close by. They'll never see the problem. But the minute those flowers go through a box or a retail chain of sorts, or maybe a florist that has a very full facility, the ethylene starts affecting other flowers. We look at them and we think the flowers are old. Meantime, it's just ethylene damage and the flowers aren't really old. So, yeah. Yeah, zinnia's up there, Scabiosa's up there, Delphinium, what's die ander goed? There's quite a list. On our website, we have an education section. FloraLife.com, education. You can then search the specific flower you have, and it'll show you a list of the post-harvest products we propose, but also it will give you a little bit of information on what level of ethylene sensitivity there is. Snaps is actually quite sensitive, and you don't see the snap dying, you see the leaves crimping up and looking old and wrinkly. That's ethylene damage. It's not age or dehydration or anything. So it also enables you now to maybe grow a crop that previously you tried before and it didn't really grow very well. Maybe it had ethylene damage. If you treat it for ethylene, it might give you an opportunity to try a new crop. So the sources of ethylene, just quickly, as I said, this is a plant. So plants also are really affected by retailers putting plants in store close to fruit and veg. But this just indicates a certain type of plant. Here you can see all the little flowers have dropped. They've all dropped off here. Here, the flowers have dropped less. And the point is, when you see that flower drop on things like wax flower, ericas, that flower drop, we call it shatter. Suddenly you get all these flowers just doing something for no reason. That's often ethylene. So just out of interest, we developed a fake ethylene gas in 2007 that is exactly like the ethylene molecule. It will go and bind on the receptor, but it doesn't turn the key. So it seals all the microreceptors on the flower so that if you give it a huge dose of ethylene now because it's in a truck with fruit and veg or whatever, it is protected from the outside as well. We sold the patent to AgroFresh. I don't know if you guys know AgroFresh. They use the product to store fruit and veg long term. So today you can buy an apple that was picked 8 months ago because it's been stored in the same chemical, basically. That's how the long-term storage of fruit and veg came about. Yeah, it's just a little bit more indication of ethylene damage. This is hard to see, but Phalaenopsis pot plants, you'll see in stores, sometimes the leaves go a little bit glassy, brown, squishy fairly soon, or the stuff you can buy at an auction, whereas others just, you buy the plant and the flower sits for 3 months on your, those are treated with 1-MCP, the fake molecule, or not, basically. Very ethylene sensitive. Here's Carnation. Nothing wrong with him. Then this one was exposed to ethylene. This wasn't. That's the difference that ethylene can make. You then, or your customers then upset because they think you've sent them old stuff. Meantime, they've just been exposed to ethylene. Again, the chain It's not the case for everybody, but it's worth looking into. Sources: plants, fruit and vegetables produce ethylene. You may have heard, don't keep them near fruit and veg. It's unavoidable. We can't not keep flowers near fruit and veg. It is typically, but you can at least protect them. But externally, other flowers give off ethylene. Plants and vegetables give off ethylene. Bacteria, the smell in the water when it's rotting, that is a form of ethylene. Burning plant material, fires outside your pack house, cigarette smoke and exhausts from the trucks sitting there going into the truck. All sources of ethylene, all create a environment for ethylene. So for a successful post-harvest life of your flower, the pre-treatments at farm level is really important. The sooner you give the flower something, the better it performs later. A lot of people pass the flower on, and at the end, somebody adds something to the water and thinks it's going to give them a quick boost. It doesn't. You got to treat them here to give them legs at the end. Plants, fruit and vegetables produce ethylene. You may have heard, don't keep them near fruit and veg. It's unavoidable. We can't not keep flowers near fruit and veg. It is typically, but you can at least protect them. But externally, other flowers give off ethylene. Plants and vegetables give off ethylene. Bacteria, the smell in the water when it's rotting, that is a form of ethylene. Burning plant material, fires outside your pack house, cigarette smoke and exhausts from the trucks sitting there going into the truck. All sources of ethylene, all create a environment for ethylene. So for a successful post-harvest life of your flower, the pre-treatments at farm level is really important. Thanks.